The ancient baobab tree cast long shadows across the compound as 23-year-old Kemi watched in horror. Her wedding guests scattered like frightened birds as the excavator's metal teeth tore into her grandmother's mud brick house. The white lace of her traditional Yoruba wedding dress was now stained with red dust and tears. Her new husband, Folake, a respected blacksmith from the neighboring town of Igbo, held her trembling shoulders as she witnessed the impossible. Her own brothers, Segan and Tund, stood beside the machine, counting crisp naira notes with satisfied smiles. This was supposed to be her perfect day. Instead, she was watching her entire heritage disappear before her eyes. But let me take you back 3 months earlier, when everything seemed blessed in Kemi's world. Kemi was a cherished only daughter of Chief Adebayo, a prosperous cocoa farmer whose plantation stretched across the fertile hills of Ogun State. The land had belonged to their family for 5 generations, blessed by the Orisha and tended with sacred rituals that ensured abundant harvest year after year. Chief Adebayo often said their soil was kissed by Imoja herself, the river goddess who brought prosperity to those who honored the old ways. At 23, Kemi was known throughout their village of Owu as the perfect daughter, while her older brothers, 28-year-old Segan and 26-year-old Tund, had fled to Lagos years ago, chasing dreams of quick money in import businesses and computer cafes. Kemi had remained. She helped manage the cocoa harvest, organize the village women's cooperative, and still participate in the traditional festivals that her brothers now mocked as bush superstitions. Chief Adebayo's health had been declining. The village herbalist warned that his spirit was growing weary, preparing for the journey to join the ancestors. So when he called his children together one evening beneath their family's sacred baobab tree, Kemi knew this meeting would change everything. "My children," Chief Adebayo said, his voice carrying the weight of 68 years, "the time has come to speak of our inheritance." Segan and Tund, who had been visiting more frequently lately, suddenly sat up straighter. They had arrived that morning in a Danfo bus from Lagos, complaining about the primitive village life, but staying close whenever their father mentioned anything about money or property. "Our land is worth more than 30 million naira," their father continued, gesturing toward the rolling hills dotted with cocoa trees. "Foreign companies want to buy it for palm oil plantations. But this soil holds more than crops. It holds the spirits of our forefathers." He looked at each of his children with tired but determined eyes. "Segan, as my first son, tradition says everything should come to you, but you have chosen the ways of the city. You see our heritage as nothing more than village nonsense." Segan shifted uncomfortably, remembering his recent complaints about the backward village traditions. "Tund, you too have turned away from our customs. You both laugh at the festivals, refuse to pour libations to the ancestors, and speak only of money." Chief Adebayo turned to his daughter with a tender smile. "Kemi, you alone have remained faithful. You understand that this land is not property to be sold. It is a sacred trust to be protected." Kemi's heart began racing. Could her father really be considering? "I have decided to leave the majority of our land to you, my daughter. Your brothers will receive the cocoa processing buildings and some plots, but you will inherit the main plantation and the sacred grove where our ancestors rest." The silence that followed was profound. Kemi saw shock, then rage flash across her brothers' faces. In Yoruba culture, women rarely inherited land, especially not over male children. "Baba," Segan said, struggling to control his voice, "surely you cannot mean this. I am your firstborn son. This land is my birthright according to tradition. Tradition also teaches us that rights must be earned through honor and respect." Chief Adebayo replied firmly. "Kemi has earned this inheritance through her devotion to our family and our ways." That night, Kemi heard her brothers arguing in hushed tones on a veranda, but she dismissed their anger as temporary frustration. She believed family love would eventually triumph over disappointment. She was devastatingly wrong. 2 weeks later, Chief Adebayo collapsed while inspecting the cocoa nursery. Despite Kemi's desperate rush to get him to the general hospital in Abeokuta, her beloved father died holding her hand. His final words echoed in her heart. "Protect our heritage, my daughter. The ancestors are watching over you." The funeral lasted 3 days, drawing mourners from across Ogun State. But amid the crying and traditional drumming, Kemi noticed her brothers conducting secretive meetings with well-dressed men who spoke in low voices about development opportunities and modernization projects. When she questioned Segan about these strangers, he brushed off her concerns. "Just business associates from Lagos, coming to pay respects," he said dismissively. But something felt terribly wrong. What dark plans were Kemi's brothers hatching? Will tradition and family bonds survive the lure of quick money? Drop a comment below. Have you ever experienced betrayal from people you trusted most? Don't forget to like this video if you're ready to discover how greed can destroy a family, and subscribe for more shocking African stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Ring that notification bell, because next chapter will reveal the brothers' shocking betrayal that changes everything. The reading of Chief Adebayo's will took place in a compound under the same baobab tree where he had announced his decision. Elder Akinola, who had been Chief Adebayo's closest friend and witness to the will's creation, brought out the sealed document with ceremonial reverence. The entire extended family gathered, aunts, uncles, cousins, and village elders, all dressed in traditional black and white mourning clothes. Kemi sat quietly, still processing her grief, while her brothers whispered among themselves with an intensity that made her uncomfortable. Elder Akinola began reading in both Yoruba and English, his voice carrying across the compound. As expected, the will confirmed everything their father had announced that evening weeks before. Kemi would inherit the main cocoa plantation, the family compound, and the sacred ancestral grove. Segan and Tun would each receive the processing facilities and smaller plots suitable for commercial development. But instead of accepting this decision with grace, Segan suddenly stood up, his face twisted with rage. "This will is fake," he announced loudly, causing gasps and murmurs throughout the gathering. "What are you saying?" Kemi asked, her voice shaking with disbelief. "Our father was not in his right mind when he supposedly wrote this," Tund added, supporting his brother's shocking claim. "He was old, sick, confused by medication. The real Chief Adebayo would never give ancestral land to a woman over his sons." Elder Akinola looked stunned. "I witnessed your father sign this document myself." His mind was perfectly clear, and he explained his reasoning thoroughly. "You're lying to support her," Segan accused boldly. "Everyone knows you favor Kemi because she helped your wife at the market. You probably helped her forge this document, thinking you could share in the profits when she sells the land." The compound erupted in heated arguments. Some family members supported Kemi, remembering how devoted she had been to their father. Others began muttering that perhaps the brothers had a point. It was highly unusual for a Yoruba father to give ancestral land to a daughter. But the most devastating shock came when Tun produced another document from his briefcase. "We found Baba's real will," he announced triumphantly. Kemi's hands trembled as she read the second document. This will gave the entire plantation to Segan and Tund, leaving her with only a small house and a tiny plot for subsistence farming. "This is impossible," she whispered. "I saw Baba write the first one myself." "You saw him write a fake one," Tun said coldly. "Maybe Elder Akinola helped you forge it because you promised the money from selling the land to those palm oil companies." The accusation hit Elder Akinola like a physical blow. The 70-year-old man's reputation in the community was beyond reproach, and now these young men were questioning his integrity before the entire family. "I have served this family faithfully for 40 years, Elder Akinola said, his voice heavy with hurt. "Your father trusted me with his final wishes. How dare you accuse me of betrayal?" But the damage was spreading like poison through the gathering. The family was now divided. Some believed Kemi and Elder Akinola, remembering Chief Adebayo's clear announcement of his intentions. Others thought the brothers might be right. After all, who would expect a traditional Yoruba man to leave ancestral land to his daughter? The dispute moved to the village council, then to the local government area court in Abeokuta. Meanwhile, Kemi's wedding to Folake was approaching rapidly. She wanted to postpone the ceremony, but Folake insisted they proceed. "We will face this challenge together," he told her, his callous blacksmith's hands gentle on her face. "As husband and wife, we will be stronger than any lies your brothers can create." Kemi agreed, hoping that after the wedding, family bonds might soften her brothers' hearts and they would accept their father's true wishes. She had no idea how naive this hope was. The wedding day began beautifully. The ceremony at the Methodist church was filled with joyous singing and traditional Yoruba drums. Kemi felt, for precious moments, that everything might work out. She had married the man she loved, and surely her brothers would eventually come to their senses. The reception was being held at their family compound, the same place where she had grown up, where her father had made his final decision about the inheritance. It seemed perfect to celebrate there, surrounded by the cocoa trees and the protective spirits of her ancestors. But as the guests enjoyed jollof rice and pepper soup, dancing to high-life music, Kemi noticed unusual activity near the main house. Men in hard hats were walking around with measuring tapes, pointing at different buildings and taking photographs. "Folake," she called to her new husband. "Who are those men in the yellow helmets?" Before Folake could answer, the roar of heavy machinery filled the air. A massive excavator was driving through the compound gates, crushing the carefully tended flower gardens that had lined the entrance. "Stop!" Kemi screamed, running toward the machine in her white lace wedding dress. "This is private property." That's when Segan appeared, looking calm and satisfied, wearing an expensive agbada that he certainly couldn't afford on his supposed computer cafe earnings. "Not anymore, sister," he said with cold satisfaction. "The court ruled in our favor yesterday. The land is now legally ours, and we've sold it to Golden Pond Development Company." Kemi felt the world spinning around her. "What court ruling?" "I wasn't informed of any court ruling." "Your lawyer was supposed to tell you," Tun said, joining his brother with an equally satisfied expression. "But I guess he was too busy with wedding preparations to deliver the bad news." The wedding guests were now gathering around in confusion and horror. Some of the elderly women began wailing, understanding the full magnitude of what was happening. This was sacred land, ancestral land, and it was being destroyed for profit. As the excavator began tearing down the main house where Chief Adebayo had raised his children, where generations of their family had been born and died, Kemi fell to her knees in her wedding dress, sobbing uncontrollably. The house where she had learned to grind pepper, where her grandmother had taught her traditional songs, where her father had told her stories of their ancestors, it was all being destroyed. And her own brothers had timed this destruction for her wedding day, wanted to cause her maximum pain and humiliation. Can you believe the cruelty of Kemi's own brothers? What would you do if your family betrayed you on your wedding day? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Smash that like button if this story is keeping you hooked. And don't forget to subscribe, because next chapter reveals the shocking evidence hidden by Kemi's father that could change everything. Hit that notification bell. You won't want to miss what the ancestors have in store for these greedy brothers. 3 days after the wedding disaster, while staying in a small hotel in Abeokuta, because she could no longer bear to look at the destruction of her family compound, Kemi made a decision that would change everything. "I will fight this," she told Folake as they sat in their cramped room, the sounds of the city traffic drowning out her tears. "I don't care how long it takes or how much it costs. Baba wanted me to protect our heritage, and I will honor his wishes. But the court has already ruled," Folake said gently, his blacksmith's practical nature making him cautious. "And we don't have money for expensive lawyers like your brothers apparently do." "Then I'll find a way," Kemi replied with determination. "There has to be evidence somewhere that proves there was fake and mine is real." What Kemi didn't know was that her brothers had been planning this betrayal for over 2 years. They had used their city connections to find a corrupt lawyer who specialized in forged documents. They had bribed court clerks to fast-track their case and rule in their favor, without properly notifying Kemi or allowing her adequate time to prepare a defense. But in their greed and arrogance, they had made one crucial mistake. They had underestimated both their father's wisdom and the power of truth itself. Strange things began happening to Segan and Tun almost immediately after the destruction. Segan, who lived in a modern flat in Acadia, woke up 3 nights in a row to find his bedroom filled with the scent of burning palm fronds and traditional incense, though there was no source for the smell. When he opened windows and turned on fans, the scent only grew stronger, following him from room to room. Tun began experiencing vivid nightmares every night. In his dreams, he saw their father standing by the destroyed compound, weeping and asking why his sons had betrayed their family's sacred trust. The dreams were so real that Tun would wake up calling out, "Baba, forgive me," only to remember that his father was dead and he had caused the destruction. But the brothers dismissed these incidents as stress and guilt, refusing to acknowledge any deeper significance. The breakthrough came when Kemi, despite her heartbreak, returned to search through what remained of the family compound. The main house had been completely demolished, but some of the older structures, including her grandmother's kitchen and the traditional storage rooms, had been left standing temporarily. As she walked through the ruins, looking for any personal belongings that might have survived, she noticed something odd about the floor in her father's old study. One of the wooden planks seemed loose, slightly raised above the others. With Folake's help, they pried up the plank and discovered a metal box wrapped in traditional cloth. Inside was a letter in her father's unmistakable handwriting, addressed simply to my beloved daughter, Kemi. Her hands shook as she read, "My precious child, if you are reading this, it means my sons have tried to steal your inheritance as I fear they might. I knew this day could come, which is why I am leaving you this evidence of their true nature. Years ago, when Segan and Tun were still university students, they came to me demanding money for what they called business investments in Lagos. When I gave them what I could spare, it wasn't enough for their expensive tastes. They wanted me to sell part of our ancestral land to fund their dreams of quick wealth. When I refused, explaining that our land was sacred and not for sale, they became angry and made threats. They told me they would take the land from me one day, whether I agreed or not. I secretly recorded that conversation, knowing they might one day try to claim our heritage through lies and corruption." The letter went on to explain that Chief Adebayo had hidden the recording device and other crucial evidence inside the hollow trunk of their sacred baobab tree, the only structure too revered and too deeply rooted for even the developers to destroy. Kemi's heart pounded as she and Folake rushed to the ancient tree. The baobab had stood in their compound for over 200 years, its massive trunk scarred but unbroken by the recent destruction. Inside the hollow that had been created by lightning decades ago, she found exactly what her father had described: a small digital recorder and documents proving her brother's attempts to coerce him into selling the land. But when she played the recording, her heart broke. Her brothers weren't just asking for money. They were threatening their own father. Segan's voice, younger but already cold with greed. "Old man, if you don't sell us this land, we'll make your life miserable. We'll tell everyone in the village that you're losing your mind. We'll have you declared mentally unfit, and then we'll take the land anyway." "My sons," came their father's sad voice, "why do you want to destroy our family's legacy? This land has been blessed by the Orisha. It has fed our family for 5 generations. Tun's laughter on the recording was cruel. "Blessed? The only blessing we need is the blessing of money. Sell the land, Baba, or we'll find a way to take it from you." Tears streamed down Kemi's face as she heard her father's response. "My sons, you have chosen money over family, greed over honor, but I will not let you destroy what our ancestors built. This inheritance will go to someone who understands its true value. Kemi is the only one among my children with a pure heart." Armed with this devastating evidence, Kemi went to a new lawyer, Barrister Adunni Ogundamu, a woman recommended by Elder Akinola, who specialized in inheritance disputes. But when Kemi arrived at the lawyer's office in Abeokuta, she was shocked to find her brothers already there, sitting confidently in the waiting room. "Sister," Segan said with a false smile, "we heard you're planning to cause more trouble. Why can't you just accept what has happened and move on with your married life?" "Because what has happened is theft and fraud," Kemi replied firmly, clutching the evidence that would expose their lies. Barrister Ogundamu, an experienced woman in her 50s who had seen many family inheritance disputes, listened carefully to the recording. Her eyes widened as she heard the brothers' threats and their father's prophetic response. "This is very serious evidence," Barrister Ogundamu said. "This recording proves fraud, coercion, and conspiracy. However, I must warn you, your brother's case has already been decided by the court, and the land has already been sold to developers. Even if we prove their fraud completely, getting the land back will be extremely difficult." "I don't care how difficult it is," Kemi said. "I will not let my father's sacrifice be meaningless." But her brothers just laughed, their confidence unshaken. "Sister, even if you prove Baba made that recording, it won't matter. Tun said smugly. Golden Palm Development has already paid us. They're already building. You can't stop progress. That's when Barrister Ogundamu revealed something that made the brothers' smiles fade. Actually, there might be a way to stop this, she said thoughtfully. If we can prove the land sale was based on fraudulent documents, and if the developers knew or should have known about the fraud, the entire sale could be declared void. But we would need to prove the developers were part of conspiracy. For the first time, Kemi saw fear flicker across her brothers' faces. The evidence is explosive, but can Kemi prove her brothers conspired with the developers? What do you think? Should family betrayers face consequences, or is forgiveness always the answer? Drop your thoughts below. Smash that like button if you're ready for the truth to be revealed. And subscribe for next chapter, where we discover the shocking connection between the developers and Kemi's brothers. Don't miss how the ancestors begin their supernatural revenge. That evening, determined to uncover the full extent of her brother's betrayal, Kemi decided to investigate Golden Palm Development Company. What she discovered left her speechless with shock and rage. The company wasn't just any random developer. It was owned by Dele Akinyemi, Segan's former university roommate and current business partner in Lagos. Her brother hadn't sold their sacred ancestral land to strangers. He had sold it to his own friend, probably for far less than its true value, in exchange for a quick profit and the twisted satisfaction of hurting his sister. But the conspiracy ran even deeper. When Kemi dug further into the company's plans, she discovered something that made her physically sick. Golden Palm Development wasn't planning to build houses or factories on their ancestral land. They intended to construct a casino and nightclub complex directly on top of the sacred grove where 5 generations of their family ancestors were buried. The disrespect was absolute. They had specifically chosen to build on the exact spot where the ancestors rested, believing it would somehow bring them luck and fortune in their gambling business. It was the ultimate desecration of everything sacred to their family. Armed with this horrifying evidence, Kemi felt ready to expose her brother's evil completely. But before she could take them to court, something extraordinary began to happen. That night, Kemi had the most vivid dream of her life. She found herself standing beneath the baobab tree, but it was different, younger, more vibrant, glowing with spiritual energy. Her father appeared, dressed in traditional white robes, but he wasn't alone. Behind him stood what seemed like dozens of figures stretching back through time. Her grandfather, her great-grandmother, her great-great-grandfather who had first planted cocoa on their land, and others she recognized from old family photographs and stories. The ancestors had gathered. "My daughter," her father said in the dream, "you have found the truth, but this battle is not yours to fight alone. We, your ancestors, will stand with you. Those who desecrate our resting place will face consequences they cannot imagine." When Kemi woke up, she felt an incredible sense of peace and power flowing through her body, as if she had been blessed by generations of family strength. That same morning, her phone rang. It was Segan, and his voice was shaking with terror. "Kemi, we need to talk," he said urgently. "What's wrong, brother?" she asked, though she suspected she already knew. "Strange things are happening to us. Tun is in the University College Hospital. Last night, he fell down 3 flights of stairs in his apartment building for no reason. The doctors say he keeps talking about seeing Baba standing in his hospital room, warning him about something." Kemi felt a chill of recognition. "And you? My business is completely failing. Every deal I make falls apart at the last minute. Every contract gets canceled just before signing. Yesterday, 3 different suppliers refused to work with me, saying they had bad feelings about my company. It's like something is working against everything I try to do." "Maybe it's your conscience," Kemi said quietly. "This isn't a joke." Segan shouted. "Tun says the ancestors are angry. He wants to give you back the land." But even as her brother's world was falling apart, Kemi received a phone call that changed everything more dramatically than she could have imagined. "Miss Kemi Adebayo," the voice on the phone said. "This is Engineer Ogensai from Golden Palm Development Company. I'm calling to inform you that we are immediately canceling our land purchase and all construction projects on your property." Kemi nearly dropped her phone. "What? Why?" "We've experienced what I can only describe as supernatural difficulties. The engineer said, his voice tight with fear. Yesterday, all 5 of our bulldozers broke down simultaneously for no mechanical reason our experts can explain. This morning, our foreign investors pulled out after what they described as terrifying nightmares about angry spirits. He continued, but most disturbing, our construction workers are refusing to continue working on the site. They say the land is cursed. 3 workers reported seeing an elderly man in traditional white robes standing by the baobab tree, pointing at them and speaking in Yoruba. When they approached, he vanished. Kemi's heart was pounding. So what does this mean? It means we are voiding our entire purchase agreement and demanding a full refund from your brothers. According to our legal research, this means the land reverts to its original ownership status, which our lawyers now tell us belongs to you, not your brothers. After hanging up, Kemi sat in stunned silence. Her ancestors had truly fought for her, just as they had promised in her dream. But the supernatural interventions weren't finished. When Segan and Tun learned that Golden Palm Development had canceled the purchase and was demanding their money back, they were desperate. They had already spent most of the money on luxury cars, expensive clothes, and failed business ventures. They couldn't repay the full amount. The developers' lawyers were threatening them with fraud charges and civil lawsuits. Both brothers were facing financial ruin and possible imprisonment. In their desperation, they came to Kemi with an offer she had never expected to hear. Sister, Tun said, looking weak and frightened after his mysterious accident. His left arm was in a cast, and his face was marked with cuts from his unexplained fall. We made a terrible mistake. We were blinded by greed and we betrayed our family. We're begging you to forgive us. Segan added, his usual arrogance completely gone. We'll give you back the land. We'll sign papers saying you are the rightful owner. Just please help us pay back the developers so we don't go to prison. Kemi looked at her brothers, really looked at them. They were her family, despite everything they had done. They were lost, confused, and driven by greed, but they were still her blood. More importantly, she remembered her father's words about forgiveness and the importance of keeping families together. I'll help you, she said finally, but only if you agree to certain conditions. Anything, they said together, desperation making them humble. You both must come back to the village permanently. You must learn about our traditions, our history, and the real value of our ancestral land. You must work with me on the farm, and you must help me restore everything you destroyed. She paused, looking directly into their eyes. And most importantly, you must publicly apologize to Elder Akinola and everyone else you hurt with your lies. You must tell the truth about what you did. Her brothers looked at each other. The city life they had chosen had brought them nothing but problems. Their get-rich-quick schemes had failed. Their fair-weather friends had abandoned them when they lost their money. We agree, Segan said quietly, but will the ancestors forgive us? That depends, Kemi replied, on whether your change of heart is real or just another lie to escape consequences. The ancestors are powerful, but can Segan and Tun truly change, or will their greed surface again? What would you do? Forgive family members who betrayed you, or let them face the consequences alone? Share your thoughts below. Like this video if you believe in divine justice. And subscribe for the final chapter, where we discover if this broken family can truly heal. Hit that notification bell. The conclusion will surprise you. Over the following months, something beautiful and unexpected began to unfold. Segan and Tun, stripped of their arrogance and city pretensions, slowly started to understand what they had almost lost forever. Working on the cocoa farm under the hot African sun was initially torture for hands that had grown soft from city living. Segan complained about the backbreaking work of clearing undergrowth and harvesting cocoa pods. Tun grumbled about waking up at dawn to tend to crops and participate in traditional morning prayers to the Orisha. But gradually, something changed. As they learned the old songs from Elder Akinola, participated in seasonal festivals they had once mocked, and listened to stories about their great-grandfather who had first planted these cocoa trees with his bare hands, the brothers began to see the land differently. It wasn't just property to be sold. It was a living connection to their identity, their history, and their purpose. The transformation wasn't easy. There were arguments, setbacks, and moments when the old greed tried to resurface. When a new developer approached offering even more money than Golden Palm had promised, Tund was briefly tempted. But Kemi noticed his wavering and sat him down beneath the baobab tree. "Brother," she said gently, "do you remember what happened the last time you chose money over family?" Tund looked at his still-healing scars and nodded silently. Elder Akinola, showing the wisdom that comes with age and experience, publicly forgave the brothers during a village meeting. "Chief Adebayo's sons have confessed their wrongs and asked for forgiveness," he announced. "Our traditions teach us that anyone can change if their heart truly transforms. Let us welcome them back into our community." The main house needed to be completely rebuilt, but this time all three siblings worked on together, each contributing their unique skills. Segan, who had studied civil engineering before his failed business ventures, designed a house that honored traditional Yoruba architecture while incorporating modern conveniences, like solar panels and improved ventilation. Tund, who had learned carpentry during one of his many unsuccessful attempts to start a business, crafted beautiful furniture from local wood, chairs, tables, and traditional stools that told the story of their family through intricate carved designs. Kemi, with her deep connection to the land and ancestral traditions, guided the spiritual aspects of the restoration. She organized ceremonies to ask the ancestors' blessing on each stage of construction and ensured that every detail respected their cultural heritage. The work brought the siblings closer than they had been since childhood. As they labored side by side, they shared memories, talked through their conflicts, and slowly rebuilt not just their house, but their relationships. One evening, as they rested after a long day of construction work, Segan surprised his sister with a confession. "Kemi, I need to tell you something," he said quietly. "That recording Baba made of us threatening him. There was more to that conversation that you didn't hear." Kemi looked up concerned. "After we made those threats, Baba started crying. I had never seen our father cry before. He said, 'My sons, I raised you to be honorable men, but you have become strangers to me. How did I fail you so badly?'" Segan's voice broke with emotion. "For years, I told myself that Baba was being unreasonable, that he didn't understand modern business. But hearing his voice on that recording, remembering the pain in his eyes that day, I realized we didn't just threaten to take his land. We broke his heart." Tund nodded, tears streaming down his face. "I see his face in my dreams every night. Not angry, just sad and disappointed. I think that hurts more than if he was furious with us." But he also said something else in that recording. Kemi reminded them. He said I was the only one with a pure heart. But I think he was wrong. You both have good hearts. You just lost your way. The most meaningful moment came 6 months later, when the new house was finally completed. They held a ceremony to honor their ancestors and asked for continued protection of the land. The entire village attended, along with relatives from neighboring towns who had heard about the remarkable transformation of Chief Adebayo's sons. But the most special guests were Folek's parents, who had traveled from Igbo to formally welcome their daughter-in-law's brothers back into the family. Folek had continued working as a blacksmith while supporting Kemi through the legal battles, and his steady presence had helped anchor the family through their most difficult times. Elder Akinola, now quite elderly but still strong in spirit, blessed the new house with traditional prayers and palm wine libations. "Chief Adebayo will be proud," he told the three siblings. "You have learned that family is not just about blood. It's about honor, respect, and shared responsibility for preserving what matters most." As the ceremony concluded and the sun set behind the cocoa trees, Kemi stood with her brothers and husband beneath their sacred baobab tree. The ancient tree, scarred but enduring, rustled its leaves in the gentle evening breeze, as if in approval. "Sister," Segan said quietly, "thank you for not giving up on us." "Family doesn't give up on family," Kemi replied. "But remember, the ancestors are always watching. We must never again let greed blind us to what truly matters." The land that had once been threatened with destruction now thrived more abundantly than ever. The cocoa harvest was record-breaking. The village cooperative that Kemi managed was expanding to help other communities, and tourists were beginning to visit to learn about traditional farming methods and cultural preservation. Most importantly, a family that had been shattered by greed and betrayal had found its way back to love, respect, and unity. Years later, when visitors came to see their successful farm and asked about their story, Kemi would always end with the same words of wisdom. Land is not just soil and trees. It is the foundation of who you are, where you come from, and who you will become. When you honor your roots will honor you. But when you betray your heritage for quick money, you lose more than property. You lose your soul. The ancestors never forget, and they never stop fighting for those who fight for what is right. Every evening, as the sun set behind the great baobab tree, the three siblings would gather there to remember their father's words and renew their promise to protect their family's legacy for generations to come. Because some things in this world are more valuable than money. Some things are worth fighting for. And sometimes, when you stay true to what is right, the entire universe, including the spirits of your ancestors, conspires to help you succeed. The land remained in the family. The ancestors rested in peace. And a lesson was never forgotten. Greed may bring temporary wealth, but honor and family bring lasting prosperity that no amount of money can buy. 5 years later, Kemi and Folake welcomed their first child, a daughter they named Adebayo, after a grandfather. As Kemi held her baby beneath the sacred baobab tree, she whispered the same words her father had spoken to her. "This land is your heritage, my child. Protect it, honor it, and it will protect and honor you in return." The ancestors smiled, and the baobab tree rustled its ancient leaves in blessing. What an incredible journey from betrayal to redemption. This story proves that no matter how far we fall, there's always a path back to what matters most. What touched your heart most? Kemi's forgiveness, the brothers' transformation, or the ancestors' powerful intervention? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story moved you and reminded you of the importance of family heritage and staying true to your roots, please smash that like button. Your support helps us share more incredible African stories that carry wisdom passed down through generations. New to our channel? Welcome to the family. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss our powerful African tales that will shock, inspire, and teach you life lessons you'll never forget. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Maybe someone struggling with family conflicts, or someone who's forgotten the value of their roots and heritage. These stories have the power to heal and transform lives. What story should we tell next? Drop your suggestions in the comments. Should we explore more tales of family redemption? Stories of love conquering all? Or supernatural encounters that will leave you speechless? Your voice shapes what we share next. Remember, these aren't just stories. They're mirrors reflecting our own lives and choices. They remind us that our actions have consequences, that honor is worth more than money, and that family bonds, though they may bend, need never break. Until next time, this is your storyteller reminding you, honor your roots, fight for what's right, and remember, you're never alone in your struggles. The ancestors are always watching, always guiding, always protecting those who walk the path of righteousness. Keep that African spirit alive, and we'll see you in the next incredible story. Peace and blessings, family.